And now we welcome to the studio today. It is now time for Ask the Attorneys. And you're listening to Memphis in the Morning, and Attorney T. Clifton Harviel and Attorney William Neal Small are in. And we're glad to have them here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And your questions are welcome. Phone calls are welcome for them today at 901-452-3094. Welcome, attorneys.
Good morning. Clifton Harviel, office number 543-9799.
William Small, my number is 901-526-1717. And I'd also like to say today is my sister's birthday, so I'd like to say happy birthday to my sister, and it's also my mother's anniversary, so I'd like to wish them both well.
Congratulations on both.
Yeah, indeed.
Shout out for the attorney.
Play a little more music.
Anyway.
That's what that was. But
The mavens of justice have arrived.
yes, sir.
I tell you what, guys, it's been great. We've had a very spirited show this morning. We've had a caller they called in and gave us all kinds of information about certain things. I tell you what, it's been this city is spiraling.
It's a little scary. We agree on almost everything.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm telling you, it really is.
It's spiraling, and I don't think it's spiraling in the right direction.
Well,
And,
you guys, we got some good news, birthday celebration and anniversary, William Neal Small, and we want to applaud those people today.
There we go.
There we go.
All right, yeah.
We got that one taken care of.
Thank you, studio audience.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of. I know two of the topics we're gonna deal with today with Bill. It's workplace situations. What constitutes a hostile work environment, and that's one of the things we'll talk about. We're also going to talk about domestic violence, and any of you individuals, any of our listeners that have been victims of domestic violence. And then there's been an upturn. We just talked about it a minute ago. There's been an upturn in domestic violence. We had it sounded funny on the outside as far as the eggs were concerned, but that's still domestic violence, and someone was injured in relation to that. And
Right.
So we went from the egg situation in domestic violence to someone actually losing their life yesterday, where this lady ran over her ex-boyfriend and killed him.
Wow.
And so
that goes to show you, Fred, that not only women are victims,
but
men are as well.
Exactly. And I want to ask Cliff, we've got this uptick in domestic violence. When we know that there's some imminent danger, not just the regular type of domestic violence, what's the first step? What's the first thing that we need to do when we feel endangered?
The first thing to do when one feels in danger is to remove oneself physically from the situation. There's a difference, obviously, between fussing and arguing and violence, being struck, having boiling water thrown on you, being run over, whatever. But anytime a person is in physical danger, the immediate response is the fight or flight response. If you're in apprehension, flight, leave, get out of the situation. Physically, don't be present. I think the biggest mistake that people make that results in domestic violence is simply staying in a situation that they know they really shouldn't stay in. For example, a couple has separated. They've been separated for a while. Talking about possibly getting back together or not getting back together. One of the parties decides to confess an affair to the other. Think ahead. Maybe that's not the best thing to do in a one-on-one situation in a small room. Use your common sense. You would need to divulge that information, but you would need to divulge that information under circumstances where the environment was somewhat controlled. Other people present, perhaps in a semi-public place, in a restaurant or cafe over at a side table, something where there are other people around so that the person who's prone to the violence is somewhat intimidated simply by the number of eyes that are there. The biggest thing about domestic violence is people, again, try to stay in situations that they know they shouldn't stay in. Sometimes it's because of emotional reasons. Sometimes it's because of financial reasons. But the bottom line is they stay when they shouldn't, and they know the other person has violent tendencies. This is not something that happens, in my experience, this is not something that happens usually as a one-time thing. This is because if it does happen in a semi-healthy relationship as a one-time thing, the couple goes and seeks counseling and does something about it and addresses it, and they don't have the problem again. But if you ignore the problem, oh, he's better or she's better or whatever, it doesn't go away. It just goes low for a while and resurfaces, and it seems to resurface more violently each time it resurfaces. So remove yourself from the situation. There are shelters if that's what you need, and get a hold of a lawyer. If you're in a marriage, you may need to get out of that marriage. If you're in a live-in situation where you have common assets and children and things of that nature, you need some legal representation to unwind that relationship in an appropriate manner. So get out of the situation. Now, if you are physically attacked, certainly you can defend yourself. Everybody has the right to defend their physical being, their life, their existence. So you can defend yourself. In the fact situation we were referring to earlier, where the one person ran over the other person with a car, I don't know if the victim had enraged the perpetrator or the alleged actor in some way. I don't know if this is like in football, it's the second guy that always gets caught. It may be that type of situation. If it is, I would suggest that the car is an overreaction. She would be entitled to defend herself if he attacked her, just as he was entitled to defend himself when she attacked him with the car. He probably just didn't have much of a chance against a car.
Yeah.
Well, it says here that his mom, the victim's mom, said she was at the house Tuesday vandalizing his car. And so, yeah, there was some history here.
There's some going back and forth, some history, staying in a relationship that you shouldn't stay in. Get out of the situation because it's going to keep escalating. Apparently she trashed his car. Who knows what he had done to her, if anything. But the world would be a better place today if those people had chosen not to continue their interactions and get out of the relationship.
Is there something...
And we're talking to attorneys T. Clifton Harviel and attorney William Neal Small, and your questions or comments are welcome at 452-3094, 452-3094, and I got the name right, then I finally got it right. Okay.
I'm the call wars.
Exactly. So have I. I'd say, as long as you call me to dinner, I'm okay. It's, this was something that they saw come. Is there anything? I don't know. This is so frustrating, Cliff. Is there anything that could have been done maybe here?
Well, were these people were married?
It seemed like ex-boyfriend and girlfriend.
Well, we talked the other day about orders of protection. Now, you can do that, and I would recommend people do that. Go to a lawyer. It would help to go to a lawyer. You don't have to have a lawyer for that, but I think it would help. And you can get an order of protection, but as we were talking about, that's a piece of paper. If someone is psychologically out of their mind, and it sounds like that may have been the case here, I don't know that a piece of paper, even though it's an order from the court, would stop them. And that's why I agree with Cliff. Try to remove yourself from the situation if you can. But you need to get somewhere where you can get someone to initiate something to start the process. An order of protection gives you something that the police can act on if the other person comes around you. So you might can take that, of course. You can call the police if you have an order of protection. If they're coming around you, depending on how the order of protection is phrased, but most of them will keep the other person away. So,
if you removed yourself from the situation, you've taken an affirmative step to get away, and then you add another layer of getting a protective order. That's another wall theoretically between you and the person. So the more steps you take to get further away, the more walls you put up, the safer you are.
And sometimes an order of protection can remove the other person from the situation.
And attorneys
getting them locked up.
Yeah, some people may be afraid to get an order of protection because it seems like they say, well, when they get one, it seems like the person gets worse by getting an order of protection. Is it safe now to get an order of protection, in those cases?
Especially in those Lifetime movies.
Yeah. Well, you don't know because it depends on the psychological and mental makeup of the other person. But if you don't do it, you don't have that tool.
Yeah.
If they get worse because of the order of protection, they were probably going to get worse anyway. So at some point, you may have to deal with it without that extra step that could help the police help you.
Mm.
And certainly anybody that you have arrested is going to be offended and be angry about it at some point. Mm-hmm. But that's just a part of the real world that we live in. And getting arrested is the result of violating the protective order.
Well, I tell you what.
Correct. And the more you can document, the better. And if it's happening to you, try to have someone there that can see it or in a position to see it or have some way to document it. But if you are in a situation like that, call a lawyer and start working on how to document and process things to get to where you can prove your case.
And the best thing to do is call these lawyers, Attorney T. Clifton Harviel and Attorney William Neal Small. Gosh.
It's a new name every few minutes, I noticed.
I see that kickback's working.
We just talked about kickback in the break. Josh, you got a question?
Yeah, and one thing which I know some people personally that have dealt with this same type of situation. Let's say if I'm fired and the company protests any unemployment, or benefits that I should get, how does that work as far as the unemployment?
That's going to be an administrative procedure, I think, and I hope that's in the civil area.
Yeah.
Well, I've never handled one of those cases, but generally you would go file for unemployment. They would send a notice to the employer, and the employer can contest it. Okay. But then you have a hearing to determine if it was if you were fired for cause or if the employer is responsible or not for the unemployment situation, and that's how it works in general.
And that hearing would be an administrative hearing, and rather than a court level hearing.
Correct.
And you would have to exhaust all administrative remedies, which normally means that you have to go through the local hearing, the regional appeal, and the national appeal of that particular agency before you can get into court. Okay. After you exhaust all the administrative remedies, then you can file in the court and proceed as a legal matter.
Now, is there a situation where if a company promises that they will give you unemployment and then they change their mind like days later, after they already said, okay, it's done, we're going to give you unemployment, then they say, well, we thought about it and we're not going to do it.
Well, the company doesn't give the unemployment.
Yeah.
If they're not going to contest it, was what you're talking about. They can turn around and contest it, but that's.
So get the first position in writing to make it more difficult for them to take a second position.
Yeah,
they usually will not do that, but if you can get it in writing, that's good.
But I think they could change their mind up until the point you actually have the hearing or don't have the hearing.
Is there a reason, financial reason, why a company would protest unemployment?
Yeah, they pay a percentage of that. I'm not sure what the percentage is right now, but the employer, the former employer, pays a percentage of the unemployment that the person draws, I believe.
I don't know if that's the case or not, but that it does make their insurance go up. The premiums they pay makes them go up.
Wow! So that is awesome, and I had no idea that the company participated in that, so they have a vested interest in whether a person receives their unemployment insurance.
It does have an impact on them if they are if unemployment is granted to that employee.
Wow, I tell you what, and again, that's a different light now, and so it makes a difference. So a lot of companies protest everybody's. Protest every person that's fired. They protest I'm sorry. They protest their unemployment, and I see now they have it's a reason for it.
There is a reason, yes.
They're not just being mean to be mean. There's, as in most things, there's money behind the decision.
You know what? That now it makes sense. I think, Josh, what you were saying now it makes more sense now, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean completely. Actually seeing the situation, because I know you look at it on the surface, you're like, okay, but if you need proof, it's just the way it is.
Yeah. So documentation is paramount, correct? That's the first step, documentation, and so document the person that the hostile work environment is coming from.
The actor, the witnesses, the date, the time, the incident.
Mm-hmm.
And who was there? Anybody that might be a witness?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be on tape. Of course, if it's on tape, it'd be great. But this is just handwritten. It doesn't have to be anything legal on any type of legal document or anything like that.
No specific form, just needs to cover the information.
But one thing about it is always keep a log if you're that employee, a log or diary of what every day that something happens, put it down.
Wonderful. I tell you what, this has been great. I hope everyone is going to learn from this information. I understand that we have our special guest on the line, TV Judge Alex Ferrer.
And thank you for welcome to Memphis in the Morning. And we got the attorneys. Now we got our other special guest on the line with us. And we're honored to have him on Memphis in the Morning today. And that's Judge Alex Ferrer, the TV judge. And Judge Alex, welcome to Memphis in the Morning, sir.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Frederick.
Look, it has been an awesome honor to have you on the show, Judge.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be invited to be on your show.
And thanks for the follow on Twitter.
You bet.
And that's how this whole thing got started. And
hey, Fred, I'm jealous, man.
Hey, if you got it, you just got it. Hey, yeah. But Judge, we really appreciate it. We watch you all the time, and we just want to kind of take the fans through, where you started. You have a very intriguing background. And some of our backgrounds are a little similar. You started as a police officer, am I correct?
Yes, absolutely. I started as a police officer. I was the youngest cop in Miami. I was 19 years old.
Wow.
Which, now looking back, of course, I was pretty mature for 19, which is kind of unusual for guys.
Yeah, that's very unusual.
Now looking back, I think making a 19-year-old boy a police officer is like giving a monkey a loaded gun. But but actually, it was really good for me. I was like I said, mature, and I really enjoyed it, and I was proud that I was wearing the white hat and trying to do the right thing and helping people and stuff like that. And I still miss police work to this day.
Well, Judge, let me ask you this: what did you learn the most from being a police officer?
I probably learned what I probably learned the most was the fact that I get a lot of satisfaction and personal gratification out of careers that help others, and that's what I realized when I became a lawyer. When I wasn't doing something that made me feel like good about what I was doing, because don't get me wrong, I have a lot of friends who are lawyers, love their career. And I had a lot of good clients, and I made a lot more money as a lawyer than I did as a cop, and than I did as a judge when I became a judge. But I didn't get that personal gratification. You know, as a cop, I always, like I said, when I was taking my uniform off at night, I would feel like I'm the one wearing the white hat. You know, I mean, I know there are some cops who are jerks, but there are some teachers who are jerks, and there's some priests who are jerks.
Exactly.
But for the most part, the police officers I worked with were all, you know, decent, good people trying to help others out, and I felt good about that. When I became a lawyer, I felt like I was somebody's hired gun. Even though I did it well and I was very successful, you know, if you hired me to fight your fight, I fought your fight, regardless of whether I agreed with it or not.
Right.
And that just didn't feel good. So that was what led me to become a judge, because I was looking for that personal satisfaction where you're trying to do the right thing.
And Judge Alex, again, we want to thank you for joining us. Just want to look. Talk to us about the transition between an attorney and then the judge, and talk to us about how your television program got started.
Well, yeah, like I said, you know, I was a lawyer. I was successful. I was with some big firms that were paying me a ton of money, but I just did not like every day getting up and fighting with people. You know, every day if somebody said black, I had to say white, or you know, green, I had to say red. You know, so that kind of gets old. And although, like I said, I have friends who absolutely love it, but it just wasn't for me. And I knew I didn't want to do it the rest of my life, despite the fact that I had moved on and opened up my own firm, and it was just, I mean, we were printing money. So I decided to put my name in for judge and run, because in Florida that's how you do it. You get elected to the position of judge, and I was very young at the time for a judge. I was 33, and I was running for circuit court, which is the higher of the two courts in Florida. So the youngest judge on the bench in circuit court was 41. And I put in for it, and I ran, and the Miami Herald interviewed me and said, you know, why are you running for circuit judge? You should be running for county, which is the smaller court, and there are younger judges there. And I said, well, because my experience is handling all the big things. You know, that's what those are the cases I've tried. And after they interviewed all the candidates, they gave me the recommendation, and I ended up winning, and then I became the youngest circuit judge in Miami. And I did that for 10 years, trying some of the worst cases you can imagine in criminal court. Miami has the fourth largest court system in the U.S., and you know that movie that just came out in March, Pain and Gain, with Mark Wahlberg and The Rock.
Right.
Those guys. I was the judge on that case, and I tried a lot of big cases, and the publicity of those cases got my face in front of some producers, and I was 2 weeks away from an interview with Governor Jeb Bush. And it looked like I was going to be now appointed to the appellate court when TV called and said, hey, we'd like to do a show with you. So that was a major fork in the road, because, you know, I mean, you know, here I was jumping into something that I don't know if your listeners know, but 8 out of every 10 new shows on television fail.
Exactly.
It was a big risk, but I took it, and we did great. We launched in 2005, and we were the highest-rated new daytime show in syndication, beating out Tyra Banks and Martha Stewart, and here we are going into season 9.
Wow, that's
great.
It's an incredible story. And, you know, I got to wonder, how different is it with a TV show, a TV courtroom than a regular courtroom, you know, where, you know, it's not as much fanfare, I guess you could say, no makeup or anything like that. It's just raw. But what's the difference in your opinion?
Well, the makeup is definitely different. I took a little getting used to that. But the main difference is I get to speak my mind. I mean, our cases are real cases. Our litigants are real litigants. We go to courthouses all over the country and pull out cases we think will be interesting. You know, we look for relationships, because people, you know, don't sue their friends and families and coworkers and neighbors the first time. So you get the benefit of that backstory, which is what people at home can relate to. You know, makes people at home say, yeah, I've got a brother-in-law who's just like this idiot or something. So, we of course cherry pick our cases, and we have good producers. You know, my show is my name. You know, I go in there and try the cases, but the show really is the work of 100 people, including producers who go out there and find good cases and good litigants. And that's why people at home look at the show and go, oh, this can't be real. Or are these people real? Where do you get them? Because we're you know, very aggressive in trying to find interesting cases or interesting people. But if I wasn't trying the case, a judge in Memphis or in New York or in Illinois, Chicago would be trying the case because they're all real.
Well, Judge, I look at the show sometimes and I said, is his level of frustration genuine? Because sometimes you
can really tell that you're angry at something.
Your level of frustration is high.
There are times that I just bend over backwards not to kick people out of my courtroom. I get, that's one thing that I do is I'm very real that way. If somebody's disrespectful, I'm not going to put up with it. And I mean, people who watch my show know that I will kick people out. And I can be laughing with them, and I can be joking with them, because I do have that personality. And we'll be having a good time, but they flip my switch, I'll throw them out. And there are times when I just bend over backwards not to do it, because I want to see where the case goes. And on the one hand, I don't want to be disrespectful, so I want to kick them out. And on the other hand, I think the case is interesting, and I really want to see where it goes. But sometimes I just can't. I'm like, okay, I'm done with this person, and they're gone.
And I've heard you use those exact words. I'm done. You use that a lot. I'm done. Get out.
And we're talking with Judge Alex Ferrer of the TV show Judge Alex, and go ahead, Judge.
I tell you what, it's you've got Judge Alex, you have Judge Judy, Judge Joe Brown, and do you know those guys at all?
Yeah, I do. I've met Judy a few times. We've chatted and stuff. She's very nice. I mean, as long as you're not in front of her. She's actually a very nice lady. Joe Brown and I have been on shows together. We've talked a bunch of times. He's invited me to go skiing with him a bunch of times. We just haven't done it. Marilyn Milian from the People's Court and I are very good friends. We used to be judges in Miami together. We have lunch together about every couple of weeks. I mean, we go back a long way. Lynn Toller, her show is put out by the same company that does mine, so I see her every once in a while. I think there's a few other court shows out there and I know Greg Mathis, of course.
Yeah.
So,
you top guys.
There are some other court shows out there that came out in the last year or two, and unfortunately, they're very small. Their ratings are horrible. Yeah. But unfortunately, those shows are fake. They actually get actors to come in and play, and people don't know that, which really bothers me, because I think that they're doing a disservice, because they're trying to make their show really over the top by using actors, because then they can make up any scenario that they want. I just think the public, if they knew that, would think that all court shows are fake, and they're not. I mean, Judy's real, Judge Alex is real, Joe Brown's real, People's Court's real, Mathis is real, but it's funny that they have actors and they can create any scenario they want and make it up, and their ratings are horrible.
Yeah, truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah, I think that the public can smell phony a mile away.
Yeah.
That's why you have to be yourself. I am who I am. When I'm on that show, I'm not acting or pretending or anything like that. And if you do, the public can tell.
Yeah, definitely. And I could definitely tell. I know some of the news shows you're talking about could be way too over the top, and I know that this isn't like Judge Alex. You know what I mean? You can smell that. But I gotta wonder, did you ever think, when you got into law school or anything like that you would be a TV judge?
Nobody thinks. It's not like kids grow up going, one day I want to be a TV judge. Well, maybe now they do, because there's so many of them. But when I was a kid or when I was in law school, nobody thought that. In fact, I didn't think that when I was a judge. But then again, I'm not a planner. There's some people who plan their life and say, you know what, in 3 years I'm going to work at a radio station, and in 5 years I'm going to have a radio show, and and they plan. I stumble through life. I don't plan anything. I became a cop. Originally I wanted to be a pilot, and when I was 18 I went and I got my pilot's license, and I flew around, and I said, this is a great hobby, but I can't imagine doing this my whole life. And so I decided to be a cop, and I became a cop, and I had obstacles. I mean, nobody wanted to send me to the academy when I was 19 years old, and I had braces on my teeth. I looked like I was 16. So I became the youngest cop, and my parents gave me great advice and said, keep studying because you never know. You might change your mind. And that's what I speak to students all over the country. If any school calls me and says, would you come speak to our either high school or college or law school, I go. And I speak to them about education and how I got to where I am because America has such educational opportunities, and yet students here don't take care of it. They don't take advantage of them. So I went through school while I was a cop, and I became a lawyer, and I did that until I said, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. But because I had education, I was able to, come up with options. And so I became a judge, and I did that until an opportunity came on to be on television. I said, sure, I'll try that. So I'm not much of a planner, but with education, which is, such a great tool to have, when you want to change what you do, you have a lot of options, because people are willing to pay to hire somebody who has skills.
Judge Alex, there's a quote from Paul Bear Bryant. He said, "There's no such thing as good luck, but if it were, it would be where preparation meets opportunity." And
yeah, that's a good quote.
I believe that you have been prepared, and you said you stumbled through life. Well, you have stumbled well. I wish I could stumble as well.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, I firmly do believe that the two things you need to be successful are education and perseverance.
Yeah.
Because if you don't keep trying for what you want, and I had plenty of times where I was told no, then you can have all the education in the world, but you're never going to get anywhere, because once people tell you no, you're going to be like, oh well. And if you have all the perseverance in the world, but you don't have an education, you're going to keep hitting a ceiling. At some point, people are going to say, "Oh, sorry, if you had a master's degree or if you had a bachelor's degree." So I think with those two combined in America, you can do just about anything. I mean, look at me. I'm a little kid who came from Cuba. My parents, started over. They had executive positions in Cuba with an American company, and they started here in the U.S. unloading railroad cars in the hot sun.
Wow.
And look at where we've gotten to because of the educational opportunities in the U.S. I really am an American dream story. I came here as a poor little baby, and I'm one of a handful of nationally syndicated television judges. So if I can make it, anybody in America can make it, because there's absolutely nothing special about me.
Well, Judge Alex Ferrer, we want to thank you for joining us on Memphis in the Morning, and we know you got a busy day ahead of you. But what is the most dangerous thing in life? Is handing an airplane to an 18-year-old or handing a gun to a 19-year-old?
Yeah, that's a toss-up. that is a real toss-up. But yeah, either way, it worked out fine for me.
All right, Judge Alex Ferrer, we want to thank you again for joining us.
Hey, thanks. It's great being on your show.
Thanks, Judge.
All right, and hey, we're going to take a commercial break here, and we want to thank the attorneys, Attorney T. Clifton Harviel and Attorney William Neal Small, for being with us today on Ask the Attorneys on Memphis in the Morning, and we'll be back after this commercial break. You're listening to Memphis in the Morning, 7:48, 48 minutes past the hour of 7 o'clock. We'll be back.